Hello and welcome back to another episode of the tier list. Finally, it's time to update the 98 square inch racket rankings, and there have been a lot of new rackets that have come out in the past year, and I've changed my opinions on some of the existing rackets on this tier list. So let's start the screen record and get things started. First, I want to update my current opinions. So the EZO 98, I've changed my mind on. I'm seeing so many people get arm issues from that racket, makes it a little bit more uncool to me. And I feel like we've been getting a lot more rackets that have more feel than the EZO 98, a little more connected. And the EZO 98 is feeling a little bit muted these days. So even though it's endorsed by the GOAT Nick Kyrgios, I gotta drop it down. Further, the Prestiges, no one's talking about them. They don't have cool endorsements. Yes, they're nice playing rackets, but Head's really gonna have to do something cool with the Prestiges if they want to keep them in the mainstream frontal lobe thought, thinking, whatever, so they're getting dropped down. I also think the blades have become more and more uncool. A lot of the racket consultations that I do, link in the description if you need help finding a racket, personalized help, and we go very in depth. A lot of people are dumping their blades. They're just losing that magic that they used to have. They used to be like that every man's player stick, but now they're just kind of wimpy noodles, so they are getting dropped. Also, the Pure Drive VS, which, okay, yes, it has been updated to the 98, and no, I haven't tried it. I roasted it hard, so now it's just got the crappy Pure Drive feel with none of the extra power. That's a C tier. But I actually think it's incredibly underrated, and it's gonna go down as a decent collectible in the future. Did not sell well, but actually felt unique, and the paint job is sick. That is now an A tier racket. So let's also move on. Let's take off these old ones. Let's start with some new frames that I never had ever tried before, and that would be the Diadem Elevate and the Elevate Tour. Both of these rackets, neither of them have great endorsements, but they do have an amazing cool factor, being that they're manufactured by like a very small and quickly growing kind of like almost startup tennis company. However, that tennis company is now making so many pickleball products. There are emails that I get from them, which I want to unsubscribe to, by the way, because it's all pickleball stuff. That is so uncool, not to mention they're super unstable, and I think you can find better rackets if you're looking for a connected, control-oriented racket. I would be looking at those Prestiges, and I'd be looking at the Pro Staff 97. D for Diadem, D tier, both elevates. Sad news. Next up, we've got, go to the Technofiber T-Fight 305 ISO. I want to give it a D tier because that name is way too long, too many alphanumerics. Like, who do you think you are, BMW or something? Like, get with it. But it's an amazing racket. It plays extremely well. I love that high swing weight for the low static weight. It offers something unique on the market, great string pattern, and the endorsement is among the best. Daniel Medvedev, super cool. Plus the full white paint job, it looks awesome. Why do they gotta give me ads while I'm recording? Okay, and I think that's A tier. Why is it not S tier? Simply the horribly rectangle grip shape. One of the worst grips you can buy. I could be using this racket if not for the grip shape. Onwards, let's talk about the Extreme Tour. Previously, the Extreme Tour was sitting up there in S. My racket of choice, obviously, that's as good as it gets. However, I did not like the updates, and even though I feel like I had actually listened to most of the criticism on that racket, that's not cool. You don't want to listen to what the normies say. The normies are losers. You want to listen to what Beckett says, and because they didn't do what I wanted with the Extreme Tour, it gets bumped down. Is it an A tier racket though? I don't think so. I would rather use the EZO 98. I would rather use the Technofiber 305. I'd rather use the Pure Drive VS. I don't know if I'd rather use the Strike, but at least the Strike has a Dominic Thiem endorsement. Extreme Tour, like Berrettini's not cool anymore. He keeps losing, he's doing too much modeling. This is dropping down all the way to B tier. What a fall from grace for the Extreme Tour. Very disappointing turnout. Next up, another disappointing turnout, the Dunlop FX500. I love the normal FX500. I think that's a great racket. I was planning on doing a review for the 500 Tour. However, it was just such a middle of the road racket. Didn't stand out in any way. Sure, it doesn't do anything horribly, but I don't think it stands out in any particular way. I would rather use it than a Diadem or a Boom. I think the Boom is pretty uncool, so I think it can stay C tier, especially because Dunlop offers their rackets at a good price. Yeah, that's a lock-in for C tier. Could do better in a lot of ways. I would love to see that racket come out in 1820. I think that would make it super unique. That would bump it up for sure. But as it stands right now, it's staying in C. Next up, let's talk about the Head Radical Pro. So the Radical Pro is a nice playing racket. I think it's a nice update over the previous version, just feels a little bit more solid, but nothing too crazy in terms of changes. I think the new Radicals are some of the best looking rackets out there. However, I think the Pro specifically has a bit of an identity crisis right now. It's not different enough from the MP that it really offers anything unique. If this Flex was softer and had a really more plush feel, or if it had an 1820 string pattern, then that would have really separated it from the MP. But I don't think it offers much more control than you get from the MP, and power and stability is down when you consider that it's 15 grams heavier. So for that racket, I actually think it's a C tier racket. I would way rather use that than what's in C tier. I think it's a B tier racket. Could be an A tier racket if they would just make a couple changes to differentiate it, but for now, it's just not quite there. Next up, Slinka Whiteout. There are so many versions of the whiteout, I don't want to make one for each, so this is just the average whiteout. What I love about the Slinka Whiteout, cool as a customer on the paint job. I love how many options they give you, a couple different weight options, 290 and 305, but they're not messing with that super heavy spec. However, if you did want the heavy spec, they do offer little butt cap weight replacements. That is amazing. I love that kind of customizability. That way you're never like, oh, should I have gone for the heavier version? You just buy the butt cap and you're set. The pricing is really good on those. I love that they added the 1820 option. And above all, I love that they added the extra length in both string patterns. Because of that, it becomes it's more than B tier. All those customization options, they're bringing me what I want. If it played amazing or had an amazing endorsement, I think these would be S tier, but as it stands right now, I just think they're A for now. Next up, we've got the V-Core 98, one of the best racket updates that I've ever played with. I think Yonex did so much to fix all that was wrong with the previous version. I think this is definitely moving up from the plebeian B tier that it was at before, and now I no longer think it trails any serious way in performance to the EZO 98, and it now ties the EZO 98 as it lacks any majorly cool endorsements, though I think Tommy Paul is one hella cool dude and he is endorsing that racket. I recently watched a little podcast interview where he appeared on The Slice, or not he, but his coach Brad Stein. That was a great listen while I was stringing a couple rackets. I absolutely loved it. Now last up, we've got the Radical MP. Radical MP is another racket that I think has really improved. Before, I had these pretty low on the tier list, and then later I realized that Tomic actually endorses the Radicals, but also I've really fallen in love with Fritz and his girlfriend, to be honest. I always cheer for Fritz whenever I see him play. I think he's such a hard worker for a guy who doesn't seem to have a huge amount of natural talent, and he's really separated himself from a lot of the other American players. So he's awesome. A bunch of those Chinese guys with a killer super racket head speed forehands are using the Radical paint job as well. I'm absolutely loving this racket personally. I think it does a lot of the things that the previous Extreme Tour did, which it no longer does. And all of those things combined make this an S-tier racket. The Radical, backed by 20-30 years of amazing tennis history, has now weaseled its way back up to S tier. Of course, the Aero VS of the 98 is still going to stay S tier as long as it's in the hands of our Lord and Savior Carlitos Alcaraz and my personal favorite, Holger Rune. I know a lot of people don't like him because of his attitude, but you can go off because he's epic. Let me know what rackets I missed. I only included rackets that I have actually experienced trying. So if I didn't include it, it's because I actually haven't tried it. I'd love to obviously try more, but also I wouldn't get kind of sick of trying rackets. Tell me what I did wrong here. If you disagree with me, I want to see a fully fleshed out argument, 3 paragraphs minimum, in the comments section. If you thought this video was entertaining, please stay tuned because we've got that 100 square inch tier list coming. Super thanks, and affiliate links are in the description if you want to support us financially. You can also make donations via PayPal. Thanks so much, and we'll see you next time.